Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. This video has really taken a turn. It was supposed to be a video on how to make faux postcards like this out of papers that you wouldn't necessarily use. And I think there's even one in here that is, this one is made from a die cut. These are all made from magazine pictures. This one is made from a junk mail envelope. Isn't that cool? So how I did this one was, this is the window of the envelope. I peeled out the part, the acetate part, I guess, and put my picture in between and glued it. Made like, it kind of looks like a frame because I Googled postcards, vintage postcards, and a lot of them look like they had a frame. So I thought that worked. So then I put my picture up in there, glued them both together, and you can see where the flap is on the back. But I thought that turned out pretty good. Then I also made some out of the photo paper that I used alcohol inks and distress inks on. And if you'll notice, this one has a lot of texture, and there's a little stamp here like a city. But all this texture, I'm going to show you how I got that. Oh, I guess I didn't turn that one to a postcard yet. Okay, sorry about that. This is a magazine page. Another magazine. And this is a photo. This is a postcard that, of course, I didn't make. But see how shiny it is? So the trick to making it not shiny, and I'll put the link below. Can't remember her name, and even if I did, I know I would say it wrong because it was a longer name, unusual for me. And the trick that she did all kinds of different things. She used Elmer's glue, Mod Podge, I don't know, 3 or 4 different things. And the one that turned out best to take the glare away and make it look like this, you can see the difference. No glare on this one, was simply Elmer's glue. Just like this, Elmer's school glue. And you just paint it on with a brush. You can use a sponge, whatever. It doesn't leave marks. Even though when you're painting it, the streak from the bristles, you won't see that when it's dry. But I just wanted to show you how I had done these pictures, because all of these pictures, even though to me they were beautiful, they came from a very glossy book, even this one. And so I put the Elmer's glue on it, and it made it look very matte and vintagey. So there's the difference in that one. And then I was just going to show you this one too. This is after I painted it. This was before. And also on this one, what I used was some distress ink in with the glue to give it a more grungy, yellowy look. I did that on this piece here. I didn't do it, but I had cut off this little piece that didn't fit on my paper and put distress ink on it to show you the difference. It's not a big difference, but you can kind of see this one's more yellowy than this one. So that is an option on that. And I'm gonna, at the end of the video, show you how to make these postcards really quick. They're super simple, super simple. They don't really even need a tutorial, but making these out of 6x6 tea-dyed papers led me to these tags, and I'll show you that in just a second. I wanted to tell you real quick, if you have papers that you wouldn't normally use, they have too much gloss or shine to them, like this one did. These little lines were very vibrant, and tea dye it. Anything that you tea dye, you can even writ dye, distress ink, will change the look of your paper drastically. Even these that have the gold, shiny gold dots on them, I use some of this, and I think that they turned out great. But these are papers that, you know, a travel journal or something like that, you'd probably use them. But I wasn't making that right now. And they're 6x6, so it's not like they're not a full page. Anyway, I was just trying to find a way. I had a huge stack, and I've really been cutting into it, and I'm really happy with the things that we can make out of 6x6 and how pretty this back is. So one thing I did make before I get to the postcards, of course, was an envelope. You know, been done 100 times. But I took 2 pieces of paper. So there's a pocket on the back and the main pocket. And I loved this. I loved how it looks. But all of my beautiful tea-dyed paper got lost. So, like, you know, now there's no writing on it other than this flap. So that's why I only made one of these. But basically, I took 2 pieces of paper, folded this one in half, put the other one inside, and folded it down, and then sewed around it to make the envelope. This little charm is one of my favorite things that when I took the ride down the rabbit hole, came up with. And let me digress. Okay, so anyway, that's one of the things that I made. 6x6 papers, magazine pictures, or die cuts, but mostly magazine pictures that I used. So when you do the Elmer's glue, I did it to show you on this piece that had all the texture to it. And I wanted to say on this one, it did have a little shine, not because of the Elmer's glue. When I was doing this, I got real skimpy with it, and my glue was starting to dry up, so it left a little bit, but it still looks great because it still has that vintagey look to it. But on this one, and it has all this texture, when I put the Elmer's glue on, and you don't have to add water or anything to the glue, I had a sponge brush, but I'm sure you could use this too. So when I was painting it on, the glue was kind of, you know, thick, and I just did this. I just dabbed, and it left a bunch of bubbles on my paper. This is the photocopy paper. I'm sorry, the picture paper, not photocopy, like photo paper. So I took my sponge brush at that time. It would work with this as well. And when I put on my glue, then I just dabbed all over it like this, and it left bubbles. And I thought it looked so cool, so I left it to see how it would dry, if it would leave the bubbles, or, you know, how it looked. But this is what it turned out like, and I thought it was really cool. So that's how the textures came from the photo paper. I know that I'm talking all over the place, and I'm really sorry. So when I cut the 6x6 papers to make these postcards, I made them 4x6. So that left me 2 inches to play with. And I made these little tags, the bigger tags, and stamped some things. As you can see, there's kind of a postal theme going on here. I had some of these little tickets, tea-dyed tickets, left over from last summer. So I stamped them. These were the little coffee can lid aluminum pieces that I die cut and I stamped. I have a previous video on those. So I just made some tags that are going to be perfect to put in pockets in our journals and that kind of thing. So out of the 2-inch pieces, I got a lot of these. And this one is showing up on camera, I'm sure, as very, like, these little dots are very vibrant. But in real life, they're not. They're very masked with all the stamping and the tea dyeing. They're very grungy looking. So here's some more tags. And talking about the rabbit hole, when I was making these tags, I saw a video from Tracy Fox, and she was doing mini mass makes. Thought this one was kind of cool. This tag is the other end of that junk mail envelope that I used for one of the postcards and made a tag out of it. Thought that looked kind of cool. So anyway, as I was saying, I watched a video on Tracy Fox making mini mass makes, and what she did was she took all these little bits of fabric, really tiny pieces of fabric, sewed some of them together and made little clusters, and then she cut out circles that, you know, and had these little tags, and I'll put the link to that video below as well, just in case you're interested, and made a lot of ephemera cluster tags like this. So then that got me onto these, instead of which, when I cut the paper and they were 2x6, I knew I was going to make tags out of it. I just didn't realize it was going to take me all this way. I ended up sewing some clusters on some, or gluing some clusters on, doing charms. Some of the fabric clusters I just put on a bulb clip. I didn't even sew them together. I just put fabric pieces along with the aluminum, rusty aluminum I had made previously. Here's another one with one of the metal tags. Just some stamping. This one's probably my favorite. So it has a little cluster on it. It's really dark paper, which I love. And then I added one of the little tea-dye tags and I put a stamp on it. And I actually like when the stamps don't come out very good because it gives it more of that grungy vintage look. And then this is a piece of actual tree bark that is back to, I don't know what this is. It came in a roll like this. Isn't that cool? A wooden roll. This came from Etsy. And if you're interested, and I forget to put the link below, just message me and I'll let you know the name of the shop. But I got the tree and moss because I'm going to make a really vintage, or I'm sorry, vintage, grungy journal with, you know, like dark forest, that kind of thing. And I thought this stuff was so cool looking. Same deal. It's actual moss. Comes on this big wooden roll. And the back of it is like this, I don't know, it's porous. It's got holes in it. But it's really cool. Really neat shop. So I used that tree bark in some of these, and I thought that looked really cool, along with these are wooden pieces that I made look rusty. I know there's no such thing as rusted wood, but I thought all of the textures and elements in this one piece were just so cool. How neat would it be to put in a pocket? Not to mention, you have a charm. You could take this whole cluster apart and use it throughout your journal in so many ways. You have a charm, a couple of charms. This would look cool on a cluster, like this one I haven't finished yet, so you could glue it right in the middle. Same thing with your wood pieces. All of these things can be, you know, taken off and used throughout your journals. I just think that's a really neat idea for one piece of ephemera that can be used in so many ways throughout your journal. Which leads me to these wooden pieces. I had stamped a bunch of these numbers on different things, numbers and different things on just card to use in my mini clusters here. Just put some fabric and one of the stamp pieces on this. I think that'll look cool hanging off the edge of a page. And the circle reminded me I have this whole bag, and this is not where it came from. It's just a bag I had extra that I put all of these in. But I have these wooden discs, and most of them are the round, little round flat ones like this. But I have some that are kind of beveled and bigger like this. And I've had them, I don't even know how long. My intent was I was going to decoupage napkins to them and use as charms, but I've obviously never done it. And like I said, I've had these for a really long time. I'm unsure where they came from, but I did look it up, and you can get them on Amazon, Walmart. I'm sure they probably have something like it at Dollar Tree, Hobby Lobby, things like that. So I know they're available. So when I was creating the circles for these clusters out of paper, I happened to remember those, and I thought, wonder if I could stamp those. Well, of course, I did stamp those, and then that led me to, I think I'll paint them. So I used some distress ink on some of them. This is weathered wood. I think this one's rusty hinge. I don't know, just different ones that I used distress ink, and I took my dauber on some and just, pushed it down. But then I decided I wanted some that looked rusty, like the aluminum pieces. So I used acrylic paint, the same as I did on the coffee lids. This one is deep brown. This one is turquoise. Both these came from the Dollar Tree. And this, which came from Walmart, it's Folk Art Satin Real Brown. Marin, Real Brown, Marin. Number on it is 2908. Just taking those three colors and dabbing it. I cut off a piece of this sponge and I was just dabbing it on the disc. Well, as my sponge got full, the colors were just kind of mixing, so it made it really easy. I didn't even have to, I just dabbed it on and all three colors would come off on the disc, and I thought they looked so cool. Just different ones that I did and stamped. Another little with a medallion, crochet medallion. Of course, that led me to the popsicle sticks that I had done before in a journal, where I hung a tassel off of one end and made it a bookmark. I wanted to make a rusty one, so I made this one. I think it looks so cool. Just stamped some things on, eye holes in each. I did put charms on the ends of these, but I didn't put anything at the other end because I wasn't sure if I'm going to hang a tassel or maybe something like this, which brings me to these. But I'll show you those in just a second. But, here they are. They're ready to go in a journal. Now, these are distress inks. This one, I think, was a spray. This one was the ink pad. And, of course, I just took my dauber and went over those and then did some stamping. But I thought those were cool. More of the little clusters with the wood. And then a lot of these I put on the coffee lid tops. Some of them I just made little tag dangles. Some don't even have a tag. They're just a fabric cluster with this one's paper. It's hard to tell which one's paper and which one's wood, isn't it? They look so cool. So you don't have to have the wood pieces, was my thing with that. You can just use paper. Ooh, that one looks really rusty. Look at him. So I did all of these. This is a paper one right here, actually. And I think it looks just as good as the wood pieces do. To me, this one's paper, this one's wood. So there are all of those. Lots and lots of little, I got carried away with these little pieces. Matter of fact, this is paper, this one's paper, these are all wood. It's hard to tell them apart. I love it. And on the beveled ones, I did the same thing. Just inked it, stamped it, which it was kind of hard to stamp because they are beveled, so your stamp wouldn't be flush, but that was okay because look, then it gave it that rustic look that I thought was really cool. Some of them I just inked around. Some of them I painted just like the rest. With these I used distress inks. This one I think I might have used the acrylics. I can't remember. Another one of the little tags. Another beveled one. And I put some of them, I put a jump ring in and put them on this chain. I thought they would look good on a spine because they are bigger or hanging off the edge of a page. They would even be cool to make as keychains. And then there are these. And they are on one of the rings that opens up, and it's like a book ring, I guess. Only I haven't made a journal with these kind of rings yet. I actually didn't see the purpose of it until recently. I finally figured out the purpose of it is you can take your pages in and out. You can add pages when you have a ring bound journal. So I just put laces together, put a little jewelry piece. So this is cool because not only can it be used as your spine dangle from a book plate, I'd have to add a jump rig to this. I mean, your spine dangle from a bookmark, you know, you could hook it onto that and that would look cool. You can use all these pieces, you know, it just opens up. Now on these, I took some staples and I put alcohol ink, Rusty Hinge, I think it was, to make them look older. You know, they weren't this shiny silver staple, and just stapled them together. So all you have to do is take the staple out and all of these pieces are usable. Same with this, just stapled it together. This one is just on with a paper clip. I'm sorry, not a paper clip, a safety pin. Just looped through the book ring, and same, this one's stapled. There's different ones. And some of these laces are white, but when you use them, if you want to do the grunge, take your dauber, put it on your lace, your cluster, whatever, and it gives it that vintage look. So those were all I made of those. And then I had some little fabric clusters left and some of the tags that I hadn't quite finished yet. But I will show you one walkthrough of how I made the postcard, to the tag, to the things that went on the tag. And like I said, I know this video has kind of been all over the place, but it's like one thing led to another, and I don't think it ever would have stopped if I just hadn't said it. That's enough. But I was going to show you on my staples. See, I put the alcohol ink on the staples and gave them kind of a rusty look. So I think I'll show you on this one. This is a 6x6 paper that's been tea dyed. This was already on there. This is the pattern that was on it. But how easy would that be, just to take your stamps on paper that didn't have a pattern on it, but maybe you had tea dyed, stamp all over it, and you have a pattern like this. And that makes a perfect postcard, because postcards are, you know, travel usually. And so this is the one I'm going to use today. But on the ones that I did, like I said, I took pictures from my, you know, book pictures, just as an example, like this, that's shiny. Took my Elmer's glue, painted over it, a thin coat. Doesn't have to be real thick. It will take that shine right off and make it a matte finish. And it doesn't even take that long to dry. So as you can tell here, I have a new paper cutter. That was this month's treat. And, you know, me, no surprise here, cut my finger. Not using it, just getting it out of the box. So be careful if you get one of these, because they're really, really sharp. This is a Tim Holtz Tonic paper trimmer. I love this. It's very light. It cuts up to, you know, you can put it's got 2 arms that fold out. Comes with 2 blades, and it also has the scoring little plate here that you can use. And right off the bat, I'm sure you already know, because my channel isn't, you know, that big, but nothing that I'm showing you is sponsored by anybody. I'm just showing you the things that I like and the things that I use and work well for me. Vice versa, if they don't work, I'm going to tell you that too. So I'm taking my 6x6. I'm going to cut it down to 4x6. And then that leaves us with this one. This is going to be your postcard. And I like to do this next step before I cut this in half. This is the tag punch that I have. Never have liked it. Had it a really long time. Never used it until this project. I've used it before, didn't like it, so it went hidden until now. So I put this in my little deal while it's still long and easy to hold on to. And I punch both ends. So now I've got, but I was looking at it the other day. I have 2 tags, what I was going to say, but I was looking at it. And if you had a bigger journal, wouldn't this be a cool book plate? You know, like to put 2 brads here and then have your journal stamped on right there. I think that would be so cool. And I actually was going to do that just to show an example. And again, I decided you got to stop somewhere to show the video. So I don't like the little square or little pointies. I do this on all my tags. I just kind of nip off that and make it more rounded. Nip off that little pointy part and make it more rounded. Then I put it back in the paper cutter. So this is all I lose. And actually, you could keep these if you were, you know, really stickler, and the dots and make something, but I'm not going to. See, I'm limiting myself. Throw it away. So now I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to cut them, try to cut it in half. It never works out for me. I always end up with one bigger than the other, just like this, but then you'll have 2 tags. And I round the ends. I ink around. And because I have OCD, you wouldn't know it by the grungy things I make, but I can't stand that little hole not having to stress. So I take a Q-tip and just distress ink that punch out. Okay, so just with, you know, the cutting of the paper, now we have 3 pieces of ephemera. And I'm going to show you first the postcard. Basically, you just use whatever stamps that you have. Or if you don't have stamps and you have a nice, you can write it. Use a gel pen or, you know, a Sharpie, anything, and write postcard. One tip I'll tell you, learning it the hard way, I'm sure you don't need to be told, but make sure that your picture, when you flip it, your postcard isn't at the bottom. You know, that your postcard is the right way up. So I have stamps for this, and I'm going to use those because I have terrible handwriting for one, and it's just easier for me to use the stamps. And I don't measure. I just try to get it as centered as I can. Now, when I was doing this before, I have a pad on my desk that has measurements on it, so I would try to line it up in there. Sometimes I did good, sometimes I didn't. And again, if it doesn't come out good, that's even better. You know, like if part of it's lighter than the rest, that's even better to me because it makes it look more rustic. I do have a line here to do the line in the center, but I found that I like drawing that line better with just a gel pen. So I just take a ruler and I kind of put it in the middle of postcard and try to get it straight. And again, I usually line it up on my desk pad that I have covered because it's covered with ink and everything else. And I thought this might look a little bit nicer. So I take my pen really, really light. I don't really press down because I don't want it to be a bold, dark line. And I just go, I don't even make it go top to the bottom. I just do it like that and see it's lighter and a little bit darker. So that's my line for the center. And then I had some, later on, I had some washi tape that had stamps on it. So I liked pulling those off and using those in the corner. Or the kit I had some stamps that I used, and I had some first class stamps to do that. Or also I had this, got this from Amazon, and it has all of the postcard stuff in it that you would need if you wanted stamps. Again, I got it off of Amazon. And it has the little stamp that says this side for writing, this side for correspondence. Some of them I, you know, did stamp at the top there. Do this one just to show. Like I say, the good thing about the vintage grungy is if your stamp doesn't come out perfect, it doesn't matter. It just adds to it, really. So I try to put this right in the center. I think I'm just going to use one of the little washi tape stamps this time. I'm just going to rough tear it because I don't, that makes it even look better. I usually put glue stick on the back. I don't trust my washi tape that I have. It's not the best for sticky. So I just put a little glue stick on the back. And I take my vintage ink and I usually go over the stamp and around the edge of. And these are tea dyed. I don't guess that's really necessary. I just like the extra grungy look. And really, your postcard is done just like that. But I usually do take and stamp one of the first class things. Maybe stamp across it like that. Lots of different things you can do on the back here. This one says parcel post. I don't know where you'd put that, but I think I'll go ahead and put it on there somewhere. And it really didn't do anything because I didn't have it even, but I think it adds. It looks good. All right, so, and again, like I said, if you don't have stamps, draw your little box. And, postage goes here, I think is what it usually says, and then your postcard. So, I mean, you don't need the stamps to do it. But at this point, you're really done. If you wanted to do writing on this side, there's so many different ways to do this. Put writing here, draw your 3 lines for the address. I didn't do any of those like that. And really the reason I didn't was because my thinking is that when I put it in a journal, it's mostly for added writing space. So I didn't fill up the back, but I did do one if I could find it. Oh, this one. So I did use like script stamp like this and just did it. I had a date stamp and a little signature stamp and just did like an address. But then to me, I lose all of this writing. So, and that's the purpose of why I would put it in a journal, I think, other than they look really cool. Everybody uses them for different reasons. That's the reason I use them for extra writing. You could write on the front and on the back of this piece. So I'm going to leave it like it is. So now with these other 2 pieces, the little dots that I punched out, I used a 1-inch punch that I cannot locate at this time. And just used scraps that I had like this. I would punch out the dots. That must have been an end piece that I was using as kind of a wipe off plate when I was doing some watercolors. But that's the end of one too. So maybe if I can find my punch, even if you don't find a punch and you can cut out circles or you could cut out squares, they don't have to be circles. I have one of those compasses or protract. Let's see, what's it called? A compass, I think, like this, that you could put it down and draw your circles that way. Okay, so here's my punch. Kind of grubby. It is an inch punch. And I would just, I don't even, this is thick enough that I don't think I would even fold it over, but you could if you wanted. If you didn't want this to show, you could fold it over, glue it together, and then punch. And both sides would be like this. But I want to probably get as many punches as I can, so I probably wouldn't do that. I would probably just punch out a hole and use it like this. Then either you could, take a red pen and write on it, a blue pen, any color pen. If you don't have stamps, you can still make all this work. I'm going to use some red ink and use my number 52. And then either you can punch out a little hole to make it go on your bulb pen, or you can just run your bulb pen through it, like this kind of a pen, and just run it through it. I'm going to punch a little hole, but I have done it before. Before I had punches and I just ran it through and it works out just fine. So there's another piece to your cluster. So for these, what I did was I left the back because I think of tags as more writing space. But on the fronts, if they were real, if it was a really busy print, I would put probably one of the little fabric clusters or do some stamping. But like this one, I mean, you could just hang that on there and you're done. Or you could And this is the cool thing about these. Glue it onto the edge, take one of the little tea-dyed tags. I cut the end, the little knot off. And then I usually did some stamping on this one too. Maybe not both sides because I think of it, like I said, as writing as well. And usually my stamp didn't come out real crisp. So if you wanted to write across it, you can sure do that too. See, it's kind of light, so you could write on that. I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to use this little tag. You can call it done at that point. You've got two really cool tags to put in your, or you can add one of the circles, make another one. I'm probably going to, and I ink around these too. These are really easy to ink around because they just kind of spin in your fingers. And there's that. So I'm probably going to just put this piece on. If you have a charm, you can put charms on here. I like the looks of that, so I'm just going to tie it. Tags. And then on this one, I may just put, I have another one of the aluminum pieces. I may use this, stamp a little hole or punch a little hole in it. And then just use a ball pen. So maybe I'll use one of these. Use the distress ink on it a little bit. If I can keep hold of it. That looks better. All right, so we have 2 tags. Actually, we have more than that because on those 2 tags are more tags and charms and wonderful things to use. And we have our postcard. I think that turned out great. And like I said, I know there's so much more you can do to this, but I'm going to leave it just like that because I want to use it for a lot of writing. I know there was a lot of stuff in this video. I hope you liked it, though. I hope it gave you some good ideas. And if there's anything that I did that you wonder how I did it, how I made it, or, you know, even like the little pieces, feel free to leave me a comment and say, hey, you went through that a little quick. Maybe you could show me how to do it. But I tried to cram a lot of information into this. But I would be more than happy to do a video on that as well. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And again, I want to just reiterate, you don't have to have all the things to do this. I've seen many people just do it. Take your ruler, write postcard, draw your line, and it's good. You could even take stamps. Do people have stamps anymore? I don't know. Most of my stuff that comes in the mail is metered. But this is what I did. On some of them, I used a, sorry for the shine, I used an envelope like this, opened it up, pulled out this part, the one here that's already open, I think. Cut the ends off. And I would take this and glue it to this other side and then cut down the middle so that the back is still squared. But I opened it up and I peeled off this part. And I'm probably going to make this one a postcard, so I'll just go ahead and peel it off. You can leave it, I guess, if you want it to look more like a, I don't know, specimen card. Put my picture in there. I cut it to where there was enough even amount on each side, and that was my postcard. Then I took this piece that I cut off, and that was my tag. So I know you probably figured that out from me showing you, but sometimes, and I've said this before, people do their tutorials and explain it to me, and I think I'm more of a visual. I need to see exactly what happened there. So anyway, wasn't trying to be condescending. I was trying to help the people that are like me. So anyway, I hope you like this, got some ideas, and I will see you next time, guys. Thanks again. Bye.